people.
Okay.
Where's the...
All right. How many now? Just say
81.
81. Okay. How's it going? It's time to unbag this thing. I'm going to take my little vacuum port off. I hope you're excited as I am, because this is a long time coming. This is the actual bag material coming off. Ugh. I can't get it off. There you go. If there's anything, if anybody asks any questions, feel free to read them to me.
Okay.
Oh man. Who thinks it turned out right? Let's see how many people think that this actually worked.
You had a question. Did you have to use a autoclave?
No. So autoclaves are for heat and pressure. The resin that I use is for wet layup and vacuum bagging. I mean, you don't have to vacuum bag. Vacuum bagging and doing an autoclave in conjunction with it is for high temp resin, which gives you higher strength. But mostly it's just for strength to weight ratio. So the vacuum bag doesn't actually increase the strength of the carbon fiber very much. It just removes a lot of the excess resin so that you get the correct ratio. That way your strength is high compared to the amount of weight that you have.
Bobby Beal wants to know, what brand is that plaid shirt?
Walmart. They're cheap. I mess them up. It takes much to replace them.
Big Chungy Boy wants me to say his name. I think that's right. Probably messed that up.
What? How to get in here? Okay. Oh wow, that comes off so easy. Here it comes.
Simon Young wants to know how you feel about the aerodynamics of the blade. Are you going to be able to swing it accurately?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not, because this thing weighs so little. It's basically going to feel like trying to swing an airplane wing. So, I mean, it does have some weight to it, but not very much. we are going to weigh it.
Missed the name on it, but somebody wants to know what the fabric is.
The fabric is 3K hexagonal wasp weave carbon fiber, but there's 4 layers of 2x2 twill 3K underneath, and I think one is 5.5 ounce and one is 7 ounce.
I might be wrong, but I think they might have been talking about the bleeder material
Oh, the bleeder
because that's what you're ripping off.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is bleeder breather material that absorbs the excess resin, and this is peel ply that allows the excess resin to penetrate. Move out into the bleeder breather, and then when the bleeder breather is removed, you remove all that excess weight from the excess resin. We got a wrinkle, a big one.
Nathan Whitwell wanted to know how upset you'll be if the blade detaches from the handle when it's embedded in an object.
I could fix that, so that won't be that bad. I'll definitely include it in the video if it happens. Wow, this is so strong. I can't.
And what's the first thing you're gonna slice?
Probably a watermelon. I'm trying to decide what I want to do. Actually, if anybody has good ideas for what I should cut with this, I'm all ears. There we go.
Adam Solander wants to know if you're gonna dress the part for the test video.
Oh, I'm gonna try. There's been some issues with that because of all the stuff that's going on right now, but initially that was the plan. Wow, there's so much resin down here, I can't get this stuff off. Well, it looks like it worked. At this point, ooh, this side looks way better. Ah.
False Albino wants to know how sturdy the foam is. Are you worried that it's gonna crack even with the wrap around it whenever it impacts?
The foam is not very sturdy, but 5 layers of carbon fiber on each side should allow me to be able to stand on this thing and it would be okay. So, it's the strength between this layer and the other layer, and then all of the reinforcement around the blade and the bevel, they'll create the strength in this. So the foam doesn't really play a part. It would have been nice if I could have done Cellcore or whatever they call it, the foam that you put inside these parts to do this kind of thing, but that stuff is expensive, and the carbon fiber is already expensive. Not that it was, like somebody had asked before in the one post where I got it from, and I said composite vision. It's the least expensive place that I could find to get this stuff. And they have second quality, and carbon fiber is still expensive. It costs a lot less than what it used to, but yeah, this was an expensive project. This was definitely an expensive project.
People want to know what the handle material is and if that is going to be the finished handle or if you're adding more material to it.
Actually, that is a great question because you guys can help me decide. I was planning on doing a leather wrap on the handle, just like the actual sword is, but this thing is all carbon fiber, including the handle. The handle is a 25 25 millimeter outer diameter carbon fiber rod, or tube. It's hollow. I have dents because the foam that I used is junk. I was afraid of that. Right there, there, and there. I remember trying to fill those. It's unfortunate. This side, though, looks really good. I don't know if you can get a close-up on that. There's a seam here because I had a seam in my bleeder breather plastic, or the peel ply. I had a seam right there, so that showed up. But so this part of the blade is going to be sanded anyway, and this part is going to be covered with all that stuff that goes on the blade. So that doesn't really matter that much. But there it is. It worked. It's light. I mean, it doesn't weigh nothing. But it is pretty light, and you can see these ridges here. Sorry, my nose is running, not because I'm sick, but because it's very cold in here right now. This is where the titanium starts right there. You can see that little bit of an edge. So when I take all the excess carbon fiber off and sand that back, I should have a really nice transition into this part here.
Games and More wants to know where you keep all of your weapons.
Oh, man, a lot of them are big, so wherever I have space. Some are in my apartment, some are in my shop. Yeah, wherever I can fit them. Yeah, but the handle material that I want to wrap the handle with, I was thinking about doing leather. But because everything on this is carbon fiber and titanium, except for the foam core, and all of the material that's going on the sides is carbon fiber 3D printing material, I thought it would be cool to stay in keeping with that and wrap the handle with carbon fiber. And the guy holding the camera right now has this mahogany dust, so I could color the carbon fiber brown with that. Well, I mean, I can color the resin brown, but you'll still be able to probably see some of the carbon fiber, and I could wrap the handle in carbon fiber too.
Getting a lot of attention on how much does it weigh.
That is why I have the scale right here. So the core and the titanium part were 21.8 and 16.6 ounces respectively. So it was 38.4 ounces before I did the internal carbon fiber reinforcements and the outside. So
Shane Gibbons would like to see you cut a roast with that sexy blade.
it is not wanting to stand on its own. 98.37 ounces total now. Here's my pencil. So that's pretty cool. That's what, I can't do the math in my head right now. It's about 6 pounds. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just a hair over 6 pounds. So that was my target. I wanted to have this thing be about 6 pounds now. The ultimate goal was under 10, for sure. I wanted to be under that for the whole thing, because all the 3D printing material that's going to go in here is going to increase the weight significantly. And when you're talking about pounds, that's why I use titanium for the blade, because it weighs half what steel would weigh if I had used a piece of high carbon steel for it. So I saved an entire pound switching to titanium for that small piece. So everything else I just tried to make sure it was as lightweight as possible, which is why this weighs 6 pounds right now, which is awesome, because that is nothing. I can't cut anything with it right now though, because I need to reveal the titanium. It's hidden.
Is In your opinion, is the lack of weight going to cause any issues with like a swing force?
Well, at this point, with weighing 6 pounds and feeling it, like feeling the weight of it now, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all, because this is heavy enough that I can chop through stuff, and the connection on the handle feels really solid. So I was a little bit concerned about that. Actually, I had nightmares that the handle broke off the first time I used it, but now I'm not too worried about it. Feeling what it feels like now. There's a lot of trimming that I need to do to get all this stuff cut.
Simeon Demetrio wants you to use it to attack the Thanos blades. Is there any plan of that?
Yeah, if I hit a piece of steel with this, this would shatter, because it is carbon fiber. So I mean, carbon fiber is incredibly resilient to force, but not impact force, because it doesn't move. So like, if you hit something that's bendable or can absorb impact to an extent, carbon fiber is great because it's incredibly rigid and it has a huge amount of strength to it. But if you hit something that doesn't move, neither is willing to give. So your amount of momentum, which would be spread out over a dynamic impact range, is now shrunk down to an extremely short time period. So all of that momentum stops in a really small area on a really small spot because you're hitting it with a sword. So your impact force goes way higher. The shorter the time period, the higher the impact force is. So you hit something with carbon fiber, because it won't bend, because it's incredibly rigid, it'll break. So if I tried to chop wood with this, it might break it. I don't plan on getting into any battles with it, but I mean, if you hit a person with it, it would not break. If you hit a chicken or a fish, like they do on those knife testing shows, it would be perfectly fine. If I tried to chop through a block of ice like they do on those shows, I might have an issue. It's not as smooth as I hoped it would be. I was really hoping this would be really smooth, but it was just peel ply back in the summer. So it does look really cool, but it's not like a piece of glass. And I knew that was going to be the case, and I kind of wanted it that way because it gives it an interesting look. But, man, I'm pretty happy with that. It's going to take a little while to chip all this stuff off the bottom because there's a pretty intense amount of resin down here mixed with stuff. And that all needs trimmed back so that I can fit the guard on and the little thing. I wish you guys could hold this.
Zach Howard wants to know, how much of a pain was it to get to this point?
A really huge pain, really huge pain. After I did the internal structure that backs up the blade with a little carbon fiber I-beam inside the bevel and all that, the clamps moved on it, and it shifted the 2 pieces of foam bevel, and it shifted the titanium, and I had to strip everything down as close as I could and break some of the connections, reinforce with more epoxy, clamp everything in place. Like, that took a huge amount of time, which is why this is getting unpeeled so late in the week. I was hoping to be at this point by Wednesday at the latest. So, yeah, but it's strong.
Are you going to end up adding the materia slots?
Yes, I am. I have a diamond hole saw to cut the holes through this, and the handle is mounted up in to the point where the first materia slot starts, so that I don't actually have to try to drill through the handle material also. There will be layers of the carbon fiber epoxy in here that I have to go through, and obviously this carbon fiber, but the diamond hole saw that I found at a surplus store was pretty inexpensive, and I should be able to get the holes in it pretty accurately. So, it worked. Who wants to see a close-up? Get it set up so you can see it better. can see that it's not flat. It's very rough. I'm gonna try to dress like Cloud Strife. Yeah, all the engravings that are on Remake, I'm going to 3D print out of carbon fiber infused filament so that everything's still carbon fiber, but that's all going to get printed and applied to it so it'll look just like it does in the game. You can see the dents. This is from the inconsistency in that foam, like right here. There's a nice little dent there. I saw another one up here. Yep, see right there. At this point, I don't think this is going to take very much longer because I already have most of the 3D models made. Well, I should say I have about half of the 3D models made. So it's just print time on those. So it'll definitely be done next week. I might just combine that video with testing it, but it depends on how long it takes everything to print out. I've got the right nozzle for printing carbon fiber. I've printed a bunch of that stuff. I won't be able to do Cloud's emo hair because I can't get that stuff anywhere. I did cover the foam with stuff to make it flat. It just didn't matter because there were soft spots in the foam and I couldn't find all of them. So it caused those dents. Once the vacuum is applied, you have the atmospheric pressure pushing in, and that's what caused it to sink in certain areas. Let me see if I can find a good one. I keep all my stuff that I make for future videos. Sometimes I sell stuff on eBay, but not that often. I didn't ever play the original Final Fantasy VII, but a friend of mine did, and I know a lot about it from him, and I think the story's really cool, so. Bottom with the extra resin. So this is resin mixed with chopped carbon fiber to reinforce where the handle attaches, and then where these parts folded over, everything just got intertwined, and that just needs trimmed off. Basically, there's 5 layers from both sides coming back and forth, trying to be intertwined right there, and it was impossible to get all the bags put on in time, or all the materials put on in time and keep those in place when I went to do the vacuum bagging. I don't have a game system to be able to play the new Remake game, so I can't. I've considered auctioning off some of my things that I've made to fans, but with the amount of time and effort that goes into them, it's very unlikely that I would get an amount of money that would make it worth it to me, especially since I can make videos with them in the future. No collaborations planned in the near future because nobody can go anywhere. Okay, so as far as painting, I'm not sure if I'm gonna do another layer of resin on this and then do a UV clear coat to protect the resin because resin deteriorates under UV light, so I can't take it out in the sun. The titanium is in there. The titanium is right there. What was the other question? I do want to make explosion gauntlets. I did watch Endeavor versus Nomu, and those last 2 episodes were amazing. I don't know how I'm going to hold this thing on my back. Favorite project done so far? That's difficult.
can tell you which ones I hated the most. I don't really want to use this pattern of carbon fiber again. I want to try some other stuff. I found some other really cool stuff that I want to use on things. YouTube is my only job. I just make do as much as I can. Ninja Llama. I haven't put anything on Patreon because I'm down to one person, except for my buddy that's helping me out right now, and he is still working, so it's a one-man show, and I haven't had time to be able to get stuff done for Patreon and regular videos. Where's the center of mass? Leather straps. You can carve carbon fiber, but as soon as you start breaking the fibers when you're carving it, you destroy its strength. Hello from New Zealand. How's it going? Camric. Which project took you the longest? Iron Man rocket launcher. I thought about trying to get sponsored by Square Enix, but I didn't make an attempt, actually. Gunblade. Where's the center? I'll do center mass, center balance. All right. Here, let me hand the camera back. Hold on. Yeah, small projects like the Garden Defender I'd like to do. I have watched Attack on Titan. Hello to Australia. The titanium is already extremely sharp inside here. I actually cut myself, not to the point that I bled, but I cut myself like 4 or 5 times on it already because it is very sharp. But, see, right now, it's terrible.
Danielle wants a hello to Texas.
Hello to Texas. Yeah, so right there. Which, can you see the whole thing?
Yep.
Yeah. But the big 3D printed guard and all the material that goes on the blade is all south of that point, so that'll bring it back here. As far as I understand, you should have your balance point at somewhere down here. So we'll get closer to that, but if it's still really high, and I'm well under my 10 pounds, I can always add weight to the hollow carbon fiber tube that the handle is made from. So the plan is to use lead shot mixed with epoxy resin, and I can pour that into the handle, and while it's still liquid, I can put the pommel on and hold it straight up, and all that lead and resin will stick to the bottom, and I can weight the very base of the handle to make this a little bit more balanced, because it's way off right now. And it feels like that when you hold it. But it is full size, and I can hold it out like that, so it gives you an idea how light it is. I mean, it's not light, it's still 6 pounds, and 6 pounds is heavy for a sword. Swords that weighed this much are supposed to be two-handed, so like this, it's not a problem at all. Versus the Pretty Hate Machining's 123-pound Buster Sword, and I think Michael Cthulhu's was 50 or 60 pounds, so I'm at a 10th of Michael Cthulhu's weight. And yeah, a 20th of the other dudes, roughly. This side looks really good. I'm very pleased with that. What I'm most pleased with is how strong this thing is.
Grim Swords and Knives wants you to know that Shadiversity made a video of how to make a sheath for carrying the sword.
For the Buster Sword.
I
That would be
didn't say
awesome.
specifically, but
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to look that up. Because I do watch Shadiversity. He's got really cool videos. Wow, that stuff is on there. So like one layer of carbon fiber you can snap off. But there's 5 on each side, so 10 layers. Craziness. It's going to take a long time to trim all this off.
And the people want to see a full swing.
I don't have the space to do that. Because, I mean, you can almost reach out and touch the cameraman, but there's a pole there, and there's a camera there, and I've got this here, so even without my arms extended, router jig there, and it's raining outside, so can't go outside. And if we go outside, I lose Wi-Fi and the live stream ends. I wish this stuff would come off so I can see how this ended up down here at the end, but this fuel ply is like bound in there, something fierce. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Anyway, any other questions?
Aerosmith 95 says it looks like a good social distancing stick.
It's actually a perfect social distancing stick. We've joked about that. Making it because it's 6 foot and 1 inch long, so if I just carried this around, I could keep, well, people probably wouldn't get near me anyway, but perfect to make sure that I'm keeping distance from people.
And the other two things I'm seeing is they want the shameless Patreon ad and a ballpark on how much you have into the sword currently.
All right. Shameless Patreon ad. Well, my patrons get their name on the table for $1 or more per month if you decide to. That's in my shop, not my friend's garage where I'm at right now. And they are the ones that allowed me to be able to do this project because the carbon fiber materials were about $400. The titanium was about $150 after shipping. Or I should say the carbon fiber was $400 or $450 after shipping. Titanium was $150 after shipping. And then after the odds and ends, like all the other stuff, I think I added up the other day and it came out to right around $900. There's just a lot of things, like all of the fittings and the hose that I needed to make this, and I just, like the vacuum gauge that I had to get, and I just rigged up a resin catch tank out of this tube, just in case the resin came through. I didn't want to ruin the pump, which the pump isn't mine, it's the person running the camera. And little bits of resin and this carbon fiber tube for the handle. The titanium TIG filler rod was expensive also. Wood filler, fiberglass for trying to finish the core and stretch across these parts that got dents in them anyway, so that didn't work. Brushes, gloves, mixing containers, you know, all this stuff costs money. And it'll nickel and dime you to death. You think you've got it all covered, and then lo and behold, you got a $800-900 sword.
How structurally sound do you think the sword is going to be?
I bet I can stand on it. I mean, I'm not sure if that answers the question, but I would not be surprised if I set this between two cinder blocks and jumped up on it. I think it would be perfectly fine for me to stand across this thing. The tensile strength of carbon fiber is outrageously high. The only thing that could potentially happen is because it doesn't have vertical reinforcement on both sides, because this is a taper, it could try to squish the foam in the middle, but I do have an I-beam of carbon fiber running through the bevel. But it is single layered, so I don't know if that would hold up or not. But I'm not afraid to stand on this. That's probably how I'm going to start the test video, is me standing on it.
Ben Freeman would like to know, if you made it again, what would you change up to this point?
I would change the way that I did the carbon fiber I-beam inside the bevel. I would use different foam that doesn't have pits and holes and problems all through it like this stuff does, and soft spots. The I-beam, the way I did the I-beam would be almost exactly the same, except instead of trying to have the vertical parts of the I-beam cup around the blade,
I would have them stop at the blade and then use chopped carbon and resin in the track that holds the titanium in place. That way I could get the whole bevel set up, put together on the sword, and then I could place the titanium in after the fact. Because trying to do all of that while all of it was wet was really, really difficult. And it's also why after the clamps were on and everything, I couldn't see anything and didn't realize that it had come misaligned or the clamps shifted or whatever, but I couldn't tell that was going on. So that's the one thing that I would change.
A second part to that question is, what if money was not an option? Same answer?
If money was not an option, I would change the way I made it entirely, because I would make a foam core, but I would make a full-size foam blade. I would finish it, I would do a silicone mold from it, and then I would make a foam core to go in the silicone mold. So on the silicone mold, I would do carbon fiber, and it would be two halves. I would do carbon fiber in one half, put the foam core in with its I-beams and everything up in this part, and lay the titanium in, and then I would do the carbon fiber on the other side, and then I would clamp the mold together around it, and then pull vacuum on it.
Ish.
And I would have a port to do resin infusion for the carbon fiber instead of doing wet layup like I did. That's if money was no option, or no thing, if it wasn't a factor, whatever.
A shout out to Mr. Fahrenheit. And also, are you planning on saving this live stream to watch at a later time?
Yeah, I'll probably keep it on there. By the way, how long has it been going?
We are at 36 minutes.
Cool. I think that's a good time to end it. Everybody got to see the sword. It worked. It's not perfect, but it'll look good enough for the video. You guys got to see all the little screw-ups on this thing. I won't spend that much time talking about it in the video because you guys were willing to watch the live stream. So, Sunday, now that I'm to this point, I gotta see how much I can get done before I gotta start editing the video so I can get it out on Sunday. So, get to see the whole process to get to this point, Sunday. Maybe some extra. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Hope you liked it.